64 days, over 2 months. That's how long this tiny plane stayed in the air without touching the ground even once. No airports, no refueling stops, nothing. Just endless flight. But how? How did they pull off the impossible back in 1958 with nothing but basic technology? And why would anyone even try? This is more than just a record-breaking flight. It's a story of grit, ingenuity, and pushing human limits, but not without a cost. It was 1958, a time of daring innovation and sky-high dreams. But amidst the rush to push boundaries, one small airplane quietly took on an impossible challenge, a challenge that no one thought could be achieved. How does a humble Cessna 172, a plane not designed for such extremes, stay in the air for over 64 days without landing even once? This wasn't just about breaking records. It was about resilience, ingenuity, and pushing the limits of what's humanly possible. And even today, its legacy serves as a blueprint for innovation in aviation. But what did it take to make history? And what price did they pay to achieve the impossible? Stay tuned, because this story will leave you amazed. On the surface, the Cessna 172 isn't a remarkable plane. Built for reliability and simplicity, it carried countless flight students through their first solo landings, shuttled small cargo, and ferried families from quiet airstrips to vacation spots. Its reputation was humble. No one expected it to be the star of aviation's greatest endurance feat. But in the fall of 1958, a single Cessna 172 would become the centerpiece of history's most audacious test of will and ingenuity. That year, Robert Timm, a seasoned World War II pilot and resourceful mechanic, was faced with a challenge that was part marketing, part madness. The Hacienda Motel in Las Vegas wanted more than a business boost. It craved headlines. In a city built on spectacle, merely blending in wasn't an option. So Timm was hired to pull off a stunt no one would forget: shatter the existing in-flight endurance record of 46 days and 22 hours set nearly a decade earlier. Timm, never one to shy from the impossible, enlisted John Cook, another experienced pilot with nerves of steel. What started as a publicity ploy soon became a personal quest, pushing two men to their absolute limits. The motivations behind this adventure were as complex as the men themselves. For Timm, it was about proving what ordinary people could accomplish with grit and determination. For Cook, it was a shot at glory and the lure of an aviation record that might never again be broken. Behind them was a team, mechanics, friends, family, driven by pride, curiosity, and a sense of participating in something larger than themselves. A basic Cessna 172 simply wasn't designed for anything close to a 2-month flight. The first challenge was turning this modest airplane into a flying home. The men stripped out the rear seats to make space for a mattress, installed a custom-built belly fuel tank to drastically extend flight time, and devised an electric winch system to haul up gas and supplies. Every inch had to be optimized for survival. One corner for food rations, mostly soup, sandwiches, and thermoses of coffee. Another for makeshift sanitation, and a tiny space for shaving kits and spare clothes. Staying aloft for more than 64 days wasn't just a matter of endless fuel. Day after day, twice a day, the Cessna had to rendezvous with a refueling truck barreling along remote desert roads near Blythe, California, and Las Vegas. The pilots would drop a rope out of the plane, snag a nozzle, and winch up fuel and supplies while flying barely above stall speed. A heart-pounding dance between machine and man, demanding perfect timing and nerves of unbreakable steel. Even a small slip could send the plane spiraling. Yet it wasn't just gasoline. The same process was used to exchange meals, water jugs, clean clothes in packages, even reading material and letters from loved ones. The monotonous throb of the engine became the soundtrack to daily life, as altitude and isolation blurred the passage of time. The men faced endless logistical puzzles. Trash had to be tossed discreetly. bodily needs handled with makeshift containers. Cook recounted that sometimes the greatest luxury was a fresh sandwich and a letter from home, even while miles above the unforgiving Mojave Desert. But defying gravity for 64 days demanded sacrifices few can fully imagine. Sleep came only in short, unrestful bursts as the pilots took odd shifts, always just alert enough to avoid disaster. Only one man could sleep while the other flew. Fatigue settled over their minds and muscles, blurring dreams, memory, and reality. Each day brought new challenges: snapped fuel lines, turbulence, the whine of an overheating engine suddenly rising above the drone. A single mistake could mean the destruction of the plane and the end of the men's lives. More than once, disaster hovered only inches away. At one point, after more than a month aloft, the engine began to sputter and overheat. With every critical system at risk, the ground crew mobilized for a midnight rescue. For hours, Timm circled at low altitude while mechanics diagnosed the issue from below, sending up tools and replacement parts in a basket, while the pilots performed makeshift repairs mid-air. The toll on mind and body was relentless. Timm, ever resourceful, kept a meticulous logbook, recording daily struggles not just with the aircraft, but also with loneliness, exhaustion, and doubt. Hallucinations crept in, making the endless sky seem more alive than it really was. Cook later admitted that boredom was perhaps their greatest enemy. To keep their minds focused, they played mental games, counted down the days, exchanged jokes over the radio with their support team, and even tried to keep pace with world events via snippets of news from family and friends relayed over walkie-talkie. Yet through every night, when the radio static was thick and all the world was silent except for the drone of their own engine, both men had to fight the anxiety of being utterly isolated, trusting only their own mechanics and the thin metal wings separating them from disaster. No great record is achieved by machinery alone. This flight was powered by stubborn determination, camaraderie, and a surprisingly robust sense of humor. Even as fatigue battered their bodies, Timm and Cook managed to keep each other going, sometimes through sheer will, sometimes with practical jokes, or swapping hopeful plans for the post-flight steak dinner they both craved. By the 54th day, they'd done it. The previous record was broken, and then some. But their mission wasn't over. For another 10 days, they flew in ever-tightening circles over the city, determined to set a mark that would stand the test of time. On the ground, the mood switched from hopeful to electric. Casino crowds followed the updates on bulletin boards, and mechanics became local celebrities, profiled in the Las Vegas press. Finally, early in February 1959, having traveled more than 150,000 miles and worn a groove in the skies over Nevada, the battered Cessna descended for the final time. Timm and Cook, almost too exhausted to stand, clambered out into the flash of news cameras, a wall of applause, and the embrace of family and friends who had tracked every mile like a prayer. The men were gaunt, their faces etched by weeks of sleeplessness, but the pride was unmistakable. Even the Cessna itself, grease-smudged and covered in signatures, bore the scars and triumphs of an adventure that would become legend. Their flight wasn't just a record, it was a testament to the heights and endurance humans will reach for a dream. Years later, aviation historians would regularly return to the story of Timm and Cook, not simply as an engineering marvel, but as a study in human resilience. Aviation museums acquired the battered Cessna, preserving it behind velvet ropes and plexiglass. A silent reminder that even the most unassuming aircraft can harbor the greatest stories. The impact stretched further. Their feat inspired other endurance challenges, motivated engineers to dream bigger, and served as a touchstone for pilots everywhere wrestling with the limits of their craft. Pilots training today still hear the tale, and many wondered not how it was possible, but why. Even now, as technology speeds beyond anything the two pioneers could have imagined, the questions linger. What pushes someone to the absolute brink? Is it glory, adventure, or something more? Can two ordinary men with the right purpose and a little luck truly change the way we see the sky? The answer, sealed for eternity in the record books, is clear. The flight, 64 days, 22 hours, and 19 minutes, remains unbeaten to this day. It's more than a story about aviation. It's about ambition, the art of improvisation, and the relentless human desire to endure no matter the odds. And maybe, just maybe, when we look up on a quiet evening and spot a small plane tracing a lonely arc across the horizon, we remember that the impossible is never quite as far away as it seems. 64 days, nearly 2 months above the Earth, with no pauses, no landings. What started as a bold experiment became a testament to human resilience and ingenuity. And even now, decades later, this story of the little plane that wouldn't land reminds us of one powerful truth. Sometimes pushing limits isn't about the destination, but the sheer act of enduring the impossible. But here's the thing. Aviation history is full of stories like this. From planes that vanished forever to aircraft that redefined the skies, the mysteries up there are endless. Want to hear more? Stick around. Thank you for flying with us today. If you enjoyed this story, hit that subscribe button and join the cockpit crew for more. Until next time, keep your curiosity soaring high.